Now we shall discuss about the formation of steam. Usually steam is formed from water inside a boiler. They are usually called as steam boilers. There are various processes that are involved if we want to convert a unit mass of water into a unit mass of steam. They are: first is conversion of water from room temperature or initial temperature to 100 degrees Celsius, that is called as water heating or water boiling. Next is evaporation of water. All water which is there at 100 degrees Celsius needs to be converted into the steam which is there at 100 degrees Celsius. Then is, after all steam is getting converted into 100 degrees Celsius or steam at 100 degrees Celsius, we are supposed to superheat it. Superheating is at the same stage, that is at the stage of steam at 100 degrees Celsius, supplying more heat such that the temperature of the steam is further increased. We can easily understand the formation of steam using this sketch, wherein a piston cylinder arrangement is provided with a weight W on the piston. This arrangement is such that the amount of water which is there is confined to that space within inside, or the volume is called as Vf. Now water is taken at 0 degrees Celsius and heat is supplied. Heat is supplied in the steam boiler by various sources. We shall discuss about it in the next part of this presentation. Heat is supplied to this water at 0 degrees Celsius. Upon heating, all the water which is there inside this piston cylinder arrangement starts to boil or heats up first. Once all the water reaches 100 degrees Celsius, or it is also called as the saturation temperature of water, what happens is water starts to boil. Layer by layer, layer by layer, layer by layer, the water starts to boil. During this process of boiling, what happens is the water expands. Any liquid or any fluid for that matter, upon heating, expands. Here also the water would expand, thereby the weight is increased. The weight, as you can see, the weight is increased. Now what happens, once all the water reaches this 100 degrees Celsius, water starts to boil, or it starts to form steam, or it starts evaporating or vaporizing. Now before this we have to understand two different types of heating. One is called as sensible heating, next is called as latent heating. What is sensible heating is, it is a type of heating wherein the temperature changes or increases or decreases, whereas the state remains the same. That is, water remains water, steam remains steam. A solid, if you are taking a solid, remains a solid, whereas there is an increase in temperature. As we can see from the sketch 1 to 2, or from the figure 1 to 2, the amount of there is sensible heating that is taking place. That is, water which is there at 0 degrees Celsius is getting converted into water which is there at 100 degrees Celsius. This itself is called as sensible heating. Sensible heating is one wherein there is a change or variation in temperature, whereas there is no phase change during this process of heating. Cooling is also the same thing. The phase remains the same, whereas there is a reduction in temperature that is taking place. Now we shall understand what is latent heating. Latent heating is one wherein the temperature remains a constant, whereas there is a change of phase. In case of heating, it is solid to liquid and liquid to gaseous form, whereas in case of cooling, it is gaseous form or vapor form to liquid form, from liquid form to solid form. If we can see in using this temperature heat diagram, the water heating curve that we can see, there is an increase in temperature, whereas the phase remains the same. Whereas if we see this evaporation line, that is the latent heating line, the phase there is a constant temperature that is there, whereas there is a change of phase that is taking place. Superheating is, again, it is also a kind of sensible heating, wherein the phase remains the same, whereas there is a increase in temperature that is taking place. Now this from water at 0 degrees Celsius to water at saturation temperature is shown by this water heating curve, that is by sensible heating. Next is, once all the water molecules that are present inside this piston cylinder arrangement reaches 100 degrees Celsius, layer wise the water gets converted into steam or it starts vaporizing. This is called as latent heating, whereas there is a change in phase, whereas the temperature remains a constant. Next, what happens is all the water that is present gets converted into steam. This is shown in the fourth sketch. This is called as dry saturated steam. And the combination of water and steam, that is, at the start of the vaporization process, there is water that is present, there is steam that is present together in this inside this cylinder. This steam is called as wet steam. It means that it is a combination of water and steam. Once all the water molecules or all the water droplets are getting converted into steam, it is called as dry saturated steam. This dry saturated steam will be there at saturation temperature itself. In the case of water, it is usually 100 degree Celsius. It will be same. Now, as I told you, because of this heating, there is a increase in volume that is taking place. Initially, it was Vf. Now it has increased. It is clearly visible in this sketch. Even after this dry saturation steam state, if you further go on heating, what happens is the steam becomes superheated. It means that the steam remains the steam itself, whereas there is no traces of water present inside the steam. There is no water droplets present inside. All the steam will be there. All that is there will be there in the vapor form or steam form, whereas the temperature will be well above the saturation temperature. Say if the saturation temperature of water is 100 degrees Celsius, it will be more than 100. It can be 200, 300, whatever it may be, depending upon the application. This can be clearly seen in this curve, in this line, the superheating line, where the temperature is being increased. This is called as superheating or heat of superheat, or it is also called as degree of superheat. Now this is all about the formation of steam. We shall discuss about steam properties. Now, as we had discussed, there are three different types of steam. One is wet steam, next is dry saturated steam, and superheated steam. In case of wet steam, it is a combination of water and steam. The steam that is formed will be a combination, there will be a droplets of water that is present inside the steam. This is called as wet steam. What is dry saturated steam is, all steam will be there in the form of vapor. There will be no traces of water or no water droplets present inside. This is called as dry saturated steam. It is just at 100 degrees Celsius, all water will be getting converted into dry saturated steam. What is superheated steam is, if you heat above 100 degrees Celsius, the dry saturated steam itself will be getting converted into superheated steam. Now, dryness fraction will be present only in the case of wet steam. It is defined as the ratio of mass of dry steam present in a known quantity of wet steam to the total mass of wet steam. It is denoted by X, where X is the mass of dry steam that is present in wet steam per the mass of wet steam that is present. X is equal to mg divided by mf plus mg, whereas where mg is the mass of dry steam, mf is the mass of suspended water particles. Mf plus mg will give us the total mass of the system that is entrapped inside the piston cylinder. Next, we shall discuss about sensible heat. As I have already told you, sensible heat is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 kg of water from 0 degrees Celsius to its saturation temperature at a given pressure. Again, as we have discussed, at atmospheric pressure, that is 1 bar, usually 100 degrees is the saturation temperature of water. It varies along with the pressure. Now at 100 at atmospheric pressure, if it is 100 degrees Celsius, this is the amount of heat that is required to convert 1 kg or raise the temperature of 1 kg of water from 0 degrees Celsius to the saturation temperature, that is 100 degrees Celsius. We should note that in case of sensible heating, there is no change of phase that is taking place. What is latent heat of vaporization is, again, as I told you, it is usually either called as latent heat of vaporization or latent heat of condensation. In case of vaporization, that is water to vapor, it is called as latent heat of vaporization. If we are condensing, that is if we are converting steam to liquid, it is called as latent heat of condensation. What is latent heat of vaporization now? It is the amount of heat required to convert 1 kg of water at saturation temperature to 1 kg of dry saturated steam at the same temperature. Here we should understand that the temperature remains a constant. The temperature does not vary. Next is degree of superheat. It is defined as the difference between the superheat temperature and the saturation temperature. It is called as degree of superheat. Now, if we have to understand degree of superheat, say at room pressure at 1 bar 100 degrees Celsius is the saturation temperature of water. Now, if we are heating the steam to say 200 degrees Celsius, what we will do is degree of superheat is the temperature of the steam, that is 200 degrees Celsius, minus the saturation temperature of water at atmospheric pressure, that is 100 degrees Celsius. So 200 minus 100 is 100. That itself is called as the degree of superheat. Next, enthalpy of steam. It is defined as the sum of internal energy and the product of pressure and volume. It is denoted by H. It is expressed in kilojoules per kg. Again, H is equal to U plus PV. Specific volume of steam. It is the volume occupied by unit mass of steam at a given temperature and pressure. It is expressed in meter cube per kg. Next is internal energy. It is the actual energy stored in the steam and it is known as internal energy of steam. Internal energy, again it can be expressed in U is equal to enthalpy of steam minus the external work of vaporization. Next we shall discuss about steam boilers. A boiler is a closed metallic vessel in which steam is generated from water by the application of heat. Usually boilers are closed. Again we shall classify boilers. How it is closed we shall discuss in the later part. Classification of boilers. There are various kinds of classification of boilers. Number 1 is according to the circulation of water and gases. It is divided into fire tube boiler and water tube boiler. In case of fire tube boiler, through the tubes, fire or exhaust gases that are formed by the combustion of the fuel will be flowing, whereas water is there around the tubes. In the case of water tube boilers, water will be flowing through the tubes, whereas exhaust gases that are formed by the process of combustion will be present around the tubes through which water is flowing. Now, principle of water and fire tube boiler, as we had already discussed, in case of fire tube boilers, through the tubes the exhaust gases are flowing, whereas the water is surrounding the tubes through which the exhaust gases are flowing. Whereas in case of water tube boiler, as we can see, through the tubes water is flowing, and all along the sides of the water tubes we can see that the exhaust gases are moving. This is the difference between water tube and fire tube boilers. Again, it is defined. Hot flue gases passes through the tubes which is surrounded by water. Example, Lancashire boiler, Scotch Marine boiler. In case of water tube boiler, water circulates inside the tube while hot flue gases are around the tubes. Example, Babcock and Wilcox boiler. It is a general comparison between fire tube and water tube boiler. In case of fire tube boiler, generation of steam is low. In case of water tube boiler, generation of steam is quicker. In case of water tube boiler, suitable for low power plants and locomotives. In case of water tube boilers, suitable for large power plants and ships. Fire tube boilers, pure water is not necessary, whereas water tube boilers, pure water is necessary. Why? Because if there is any contaminated water that is present, what happens is the inner walls of the tubes may get corroded or eroded, or may the salt content or the mineral content that is dissolved may get deposited on the inner walls of the tubes. Next difference is the bursting of fire tube is more serious, whereas bursting of water tubes is less serious. This is self-explanatory. Next is the initial cost of the fire tube boiler is low and has a greater reliability. The water tube boilers have a high initial cost and so not reliable. Fire tube boiler are used for the power for a given power which occupies more space, whereas for the same power generation water tube boiler occupies less space. Fire tube boilers are suitable for mobile applications, whereas water tube boilers are not suitable for mobile applications. Next we shall further classify boilers according to the location of the furnace, internal fire boiler and external fire boiler. According to circulation of water, forced circulation and natural circulation. In case of natural circulation, the circulation of water is just by the difference in density that is caused by the heating of water is called as natural circulation. Forced circulation is one wherein the water that is flowing is aided by an external source. Usually a pump is used for the circulation of water. According to the axis of the shell, it can be classified as horizontal boilers and vertical boilers. According to their uses, it can be classified as stationary boilers, locomotive boilers and marine boilers. Now we shall discuss about Babcock and Wilcox boiler. As we can see, it is a water tube boiler. Why it is a water tube boiler is, as we can see, through the tubes water is being flowed. Through the tubes water is being flown, and all across the tubes the exhaust gases that are generated by the combustion of the coal, that is the fuel, is flowing through the is flowing all around the tubes of the tubes which is carrying the water. Now we shall discuss about Babcock and Wilcox boiler in detail. As we can see, there is a water drum that is present on in which water is filled. This water is filled to 3/4 of its level. Why? Because the on top of this water, that is 1/4 of it, will be left as steam space. The steam that is getting generated will be getting occupied, or since the steam is less denser than water, gets collected in the top of this container or drum. Now as we can see, the major parts are water level indicator. It will indicate the level of the water. Next is the pressure gauge, which indicates the pressure. Next is dead weight or safety valve. This is just like a pressure cooker, wherein whenever the steam is getting generated, we put a weight such that the pressure that is built up inside will be released by the outflow of the steam. Similarly, the dead weight is used. This is the steam stop valve, which is used for stopping the steam. Iron girder is used for supporting the drum on the mud box or on the brickwork that you can see here. Next is the lower water tubes, that is for passing the water downwards. Next is superheated steam is passed through with this pipe. We'll come to it later. Brickwork, it provides a support. Next is the downtake header. Again, the lower water tubes are supported through the downtake header. Next is mud box. Why this mud box is required is, whenever we heat water, whatever is dissolved inside it, say salts or mud, anything will be getting accumulated in the mud box. Next is the blow off pipe. Using this blow off pipe, this mud, whatever is accumulated in the mud box, can be removed off. Next, baffle plates. Baffle plates are there at equal intervals. They are provided to support the pipes, the water pipes that are present. In order to support it, we are using the baffle plates. Next is the ash pit. The ash pit is used to collect the ash, which is a byproduct of the combustion of coal. By the combustion of coal, we get exhaust gases which are at very high temperatures, and we get ash. This ash is again collected in the ash pit, and again it is used for various purposes like your preparation of cement, etc. Next is the uptake header. Whatever water has come down through the downtake header goes back through the uptake header. Again we can see that there are no pumps that are present here. This is a natural circulation water type of a boiler, wherein water, just by the difference in density which is created by the heating of the water and formation of steam, the water flows. This is the uptake header. Next is the upper water tube. That is, through these tubes itself, the steam or the hot water gets collected in the drum that is present. Next is the fusible plug. It is used whenever we want to clean it. These fusible plugs are removed off, thereby water flows off. Next is the feed valve. Through this feed valve itself, the water is fed inside the boiler. Now what happens is, through the downtake header, water which is present in the water drum comes down. Because of the exhaust gases that are circulating all across the tubes of all across the water tubes, it absorbs the heat from the exhaust gases and the water gets heated up. Because of this heated water becomes less dense, or it becomes lighter. thereby it flows through the uptake header and it goes back to the water drum. Next, what happens? The same water again comes back through the downtake header. It again absorbs the heat that is found in the exhaust gases, and again it through the uptake header it goes back to the steam water drum. This happens until this water is getting converted into steam, and then once it goes back to the water drum or the steam drum, the steam gets accumulated at the top surface above the water on top surface of the boiler. The steam gets accumulated. This is all about Babcock and Wilcox boiler. Babcock and Wilcox boiler is a horizontal, externally fired stationary natural circulation water tube boiler. The steam pressure varies from 11.5 to 17.5 bar. The steam capacity ranges from 20,000 to 40,000 kgs per hour. The major parts of the boiler are water and steam drum, water tubes, baffle plates, superheater. We shall discuss about boiler mountings and accessories at the end of this presentation. Next is Lancashire boiler. Lancashire boiler is a fire tube boiler wherein the water which is present in the water drum will not flow through any tubes. It will be there stationary, whereas there will be two tubes inside. The exhaust gases or the flue gases flow through the flue tubes, and the water that is present in the boiler drum will remain there itself, and it gets converted into steam. Now again, dead weight, which is there for the purpose of ensuring safety. If there is extra pressure that is there, this dead weight expands up or goes up, thereby all the steam will be going out, thereby regulating the steam. Steam stop valve is there for the flow, for controlling the flow of steam. Manhole is present for entering inside the boiler for cleaning purpose. Boiler drum, as we can see, the furnace door, it is there. Again, through the furnace grate, coal is heated up, thereby it forms is combusted, thereby the exhaust gases that are produced by the combustion of the fuel will go all through the fire tubes. So this is about Lancashire boiler. It is a stationary internal fired horizontal and natural circulation boiler. The steam you can generate steam up to 14 bars here. The steam capacity is somewhere around 9,000 kgs per hour. It is used in sugar mills and textile industries. Main parts of the boiler are cylindrical shell packed on brickwork setup, two flue tubes, furnace grates, etc. Now, there are two things called as boiler mountings and accessories. Boiler mountings are one which are an essential part of any boiler. For the functioning of these boiler mountings are very much essential. They come standard with any boiler. Whereas accessories are auxiliary parts. They are extra features that are there in order to enhance the performance of any boiler. So boiler mountings are fitted over the boiler shell to ensure safe operation, efficient working, control the steam generation, and for the purpose of easy maintenance. Boiler accessories are auxiliary parts for smooth functioning and to increase the overall efficiency of the boiler. Now we shall discuss about various boiler mountings. Boiler mountings are, as I told you, they are the essential parts of any boiler. Boiler mountings are compulsory, they must be present in case of any boiler, whereas boiler accessories are just like an extra fitting that is there in order to improve or enhance the efficiency of the boiler. Water level indicator which indicates the level of water inside the boiler drum. Two water level indicators are fitted in case of front end of the boiler drum. It is there such that it is clearly visible to the operator. Next is pressure gauge. It is also very much essential. It indicates the pressure that is developed inside the boiler. It is mounted in the front end and top of the boiler cell. Safety valve, which maintains constant pressure, which operates at the design pressure of the boiler. When the pressure exceeds the design pressure, say every boiler will be designed for certain pressure. As we told, 19 bar in case of Babcock and Wilcox boiler. If it exceeds that pressure, what happens is automatically the safety valve will discharge, or it will let off the excess steam inside the atmosphere. If this is not being done, there are chances that the boiler may explode. It is located at the top of the boiler. A spring-loaded lever or dead weight safety valves are usually used. Dead weight safety valve, as I told you, it is usually seen in case of a pressure cooker. Next is steam stop valve. It controls the flow of steam from the boiler to the steam pipe or from one steam pipe to the other. Next is speed check valve or feed valve. It controls the supply of water into the boiler. It is fitted over the shell below the normal water. Blow off cock. It is used to empty the boiler or remove the water completely when the boiler has to be cleaned or inspected. It is used. It is again blow off cock is used in order to remove all the water whenever we want to clean or see if there is any problem with the boiler. It is removed. It is removed again to remove the water and any mud or any scales if at all if it is collected in the bottom of the boiler, it can be removed off. Next is fusible plug. It is used to extinguish the fire in the furnace. It is made up of gunmetal. Next is boiler accessories. As I told, boiler accessories are the extra features that are present in case of any boiler. First is economizer. Economizer is a device which is used to heat the feed water. Before the water gets inside the drum itself, the water is heated by using an economizer. Again, these exhaust gases which are produced by the combustion of the fuel, before letting it outside to the atmosphere to the chimney, before whatever is the waste heat that it is having, a little amount of waste heat will be always be present. Whatever is the waste heat that is present, that will be used in the economizer to heat the feed water. Next is air preheater. It extracts the heat from the gases and utilized for heating the air supplied for combustion of the fuel. Again, the extra exhaust heat that is present in the gases are used in the economizer and air preheater. Next is superheater. It increases the amount of or the temperature of steam above the saturation temperature. Again, this is very essential in case of any steam turbines. It works at very high pressures. Next is reheater. It utilizes the heat from the gases to reheat the steam which is placed between high pressure and low pressure turbines.